everybody, and welcome back to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This is a slightly different video to obviously the main series. This is going to be more of a whispered wander. We're here in Shropshire, although it's not quite called that at the minute. It's quite stunning around here. We're first off going to wander up this hill to the viewpoint that's on the top up there, which looks quite stunning, and then we're going to wander just through the valleys and the hills and things, and we're going to chat about a whole host of different things really. Some of my thoughts on the game at the minute, some thoughts on life at the minute, but that sort of thing. Let's get going, I guess. I've had quite a lot of people asking me to do whispered videos. Well, here's one for a start, but I wanted to talk about why you don't really see many of those anymore on my channel, and why that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't do them anymore or anything like that. That makes sense. So, when I primarily started this channel out, I primarily did whispered videos. I have thousands on my channel, and honestly, sometimes you want a break and want to do something a bit different. The other reasons are that, from a technical point of view, they're a lot harder to do. You have to have your everything set up in a much you have to have a lot quieter background noise. You have to have a lot more, you have to worry more about microphone sensitivity, etc. And you have to worry about the game sounds a little bit more than maybe a soft spoken one. I use a program called RTX Voice, which cuts out background noise. Now, it works brilliantly when talking normally, but with slightly lower sound levels, it does struggle a bit to cut out background noise from foreground noise or your speaking voice. I've turned it off for this video. It does mean you may hear a little bit of noise from my computer in the background. I try very hard to eliminate any of that sort of fan background noise. I really don't like it personally. It really bothers me. I know some people are like, oh, it's fine, but I don't know, some channels have it, but it's just a personal thing for me where I'm like, it really bothers me to have that on in the background, and so I try hard to try and eliminate that. It's taken me years and a lot of money to get to that kind of level. So yeah, I try to get my videos up to as kind of professional quality as I can do while not editing them. So it's always been my biggest bugbear to edit videos, and quite early on I decided to not do that on my channel. So I'm one and done basically. I record the video and what you see is what you get. The only time I'll edit is if there has been a big problem, or if I specifically want to edit it for a reason. It's quite rare though that happens. So bear that in mind. Here we go. That's a view. Let's get a look. It's absolutely stunning, this game. It really is. It's been running really well since a patch updated like a day ago. It's the 27th of November as I record this. I think it was yesterday. There was a big patch which really helped with the performance. I've had stable 60 ever since on 1440p at a high resolution. What an interesting looking castle there, but we're actually going to be heading off this way. So yeah, that's why I don't do many whispered videos. The third reason actually is that sometimes I don't feel like the game necessarily works well with a whispered video. So Assassin's Creed Valhalla playing normally is one where I don't think it actually does work that well because it's quite a violent game. I think soft spoken is fine, and I think it works well in that respect, but yeah, I'm not too keen on it doing it in a oh wow, we've got to follow this river down. I think I'm not too keen on doing it in a whispered style, personally. But these kind of wander videos I do like doing because there's obviously we're going to try and avoid combat where possible and take in some of the views and chat a little bit about the game itself. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up first because I do get a lot of people asking me questions about that. You know, why I get as many people asking me why I don't do whispered videos as why I do whispered videos, but yeah, it's a kind of a technical thing more than a personal preference thing. But you know, yeah, that's the way it goes. Now, let's talk about Assassin's Creed Valhalla because I am about 35 hours into the game. Obviously on my channel I'm not anywhere near that, but I have a lot of videos in backlog, so bear that in mind. I'm not going to spoil the game for you. When I talk about story stuff, I'll try and do it quite generically because I mean, to give you a little bit of a spoiler, I absolutely adore this game. I think it's brilliant, and I think people should definitely give it a go, because I think it's a really, really good game. There's actually a bear over there. We're going to avoid him, Mr. Bear. I just wanted to kind of follow this river down and see where it goes to. I am a big Assassin's Creed fan. Have been since, well, I would say since number 2. I'd say I loved the idea of number 1, but I did find it a bit clunky. I loved the way it kind of worked and stuff, but I remember never really completing it or getting that far in it because I just found it a bit clunky. 2, I think, really kind of kicked up where I was like, oh yeah, I liked 1, and this does seem to have kind of polished it up a bit, and the story was fantastic, and I preferred the setting being in Italy. There's a ball there we want to avoid. God. Who was that? Oh God. He's seen us. Run away. Run away. We're going down the river. Yeah, and kind of fell in love with the series from there, really. And yes, you know, I wouldn't say that I've been enamoured with every single Assassin's Creed out there. I did kind of fall off a little bit around the extended, like, Brotherhood and things like that, and jump back in again, and actually kind of skipped 3 as well, and jump back in again with Black Flag, which I really loved.
Fucking shit!
We're going to avoid that because we're not doing quiz right now, but that's hilarious.
Mother's right. Always keep the legs closed.
Jeez Louise. I'll come back there off camera and do that quest, don't worry. That was funny. You might actually be coming down into a town, which I'm trying to avoid the towns and people and things. Oh no, it looks like just someone's hut or something. Yeah, so I kind of fell off a little bit around after 2, I think, until about Black Flag. I do own 3 actually, but I never quite got around to playing it. So I know there's a remastered version. I might give it a go one day, but I don't know if I would find it just a bit too clunky compared to kind of more modern Assassin's Creed games now. We're actually now going to just kind of head back up this way as we go. So I loved Black Flag, as most people did. It's not my favourite in the series, but it was really good. I think people do overhype it a little bit, but it is a very, very good game. Unity, I really liked. I loved the size of the crowds, the setting of the French Revolution. To begin with, I found Arno a bit of a dick, but I did grow to like him a lot. I think that was the point of him, and I did really like Unity a lot. I thought it looked really stunning. It ran like trash, but it did look good. Even if I go back and run it now on modern hardware, it still chugs a little bit, you know. But it was a very ambitious game. I love Syndicate. Syndicate is one of my favourite games out there. I just love the setting. I liked Evie and Jacob. I liked their differences. And again, just the setting of it in Victorian London was just absolutely spot on for me. As somebody who lived in London for like 9 years, it was incredible, you know. And while I know technically it's not the fan favourite out there or anything like that, I personally have a really kind of good connection with it. Oh god, don't want to go in there. I have personally just have that connection with it because I spent so long in London, and I appreciate it. Not for everybody though. And then we move on to the kind of the modern Assassin's Creed games.
Here are vigilant.
Yes, they are, aren't they? We actually have another viewpoint. Is that? Oh shit, we're actually in Gloucester here right now. I didn't realise it's actually way above our power level. Well, we'll wander back off this way. Try not to see any guards. Okay, we'll just mark that on our map so we know where it is. Yeah, Origins. I really liked Origins. It didn't quite gel with me at first, I don't think, but once I kind of got through the story a bit, and it did drag on a little bit at the end, I felt, but I did really love the setting. It was really cool. I liked Bayek. It wasn't necessarily one of my favourite characters because he was a bit too serious, if that makes sense. But I understand, that was his character. I really like the setting, obviously. The fact that you can ride around on camels was just the best. And it was a really beautiful game, and obviously it ushered in this new kind of era where the combat was a bit more interesting than it had been in previous Assassin's Creed games. Previously, it was very much about kind of timed blocking and riposting, and the idea was that you should be an assassin, and combat was kind of in extreme circumstances only. But although I guess Syndicate did kind of do a bit of that as well, and I think Origins was a more natural progression on from that. I don't think Syndicate sometimes gets the I think it's looked down upon a little bit, but I think it was a really good what's the word I'm looking for? An evolution, that kind of missing link between old Assassin's Creed and new Assassin's Creed games. And the grappling hook was awesome as well. But Origins, yeah, I think did take that on to another level. Different weapons doing different things. And I liked it. I finished it as well. Odyssey again kind of took up another level. We had this kind of twin protagonist, but one of them was bad. I don't think that's a spoiler. You find that out quite early. But depending on who you choose and stuff, and this huge world, just absolutely massive. And I think that was to his detriment as well, because I struggled with that game and its size because there was so much to do constantly. My criticism of Odyssey was that you couldn't move 5 feet in this beautiful, stunning world without about there being something to collect, a side quest or some treasure or something like that, and it ruined the world for me, because these huge open worlds should have these spaces of emptiness. Of course you want to have things going on in them, of course you do. You know, you shouldn't just have large swaths of nothing, but me personally, I feel like the best open worlds really do a good job of making you feel like you're somewhere massive by having these kind of open spaces, but also having these hubs or these interesting things kind of happen every now and then as you go along. And you know, I think Valhalla does a very good job of that now, but I think Odyssey didn't quite hit the mark for me. And then we get to obviously Valhalla, as I said, and I really like Valhalla so far. I've played a fair few hours off camera, just exploring and discovering things, looking at the landscapes, that kind of thing, doing the little side missions, which I think are an important thing to talk about, because they do something very different in this to kind of other games, where you have these, if I show you on here, these little points here, which are called mysteries, and there's actually a viewpoint here. Dare we go up there and actually find it? I'll have a look, see if there's anybody around. These mysteries are tiny little stories, which sometimes can last a couple of minutes, sometimes they're a little bit longer, but never usually like a meaty side quest thing. And these mysteries are sometimes quite moving, sometimes just funny, sometimes really silly. I've had different ones where, for example, I came across a pond and there was a small girl, and she was telling me how her brother got turned into a fish by a goblin.
Corruption lurks here.
Oh, okay, it's a corruption site. We'll kind of move on from that just to hit the synchronization point. Yeah, and she was telling me her brother got turned into a fish by a goblin, and she needed me to. Oh fuck! I thought I fell off the cliff then. She needed me to help her, find him and catch him. So I did a bit of fishing, and she's like, "Oh no, he had brown eyes. That one's got green eyes." And oh no, he was much bigger than that fish. And then her brother came running out of the bushes and was like, "No, we can't keep this going on." And she's like, "But he's catching us fish." And it's just that little story, and in the end I gave her the fish, for successfully deceiving me. But it was just a nice little mission. I had one where I came across a guy who was setting fire, I think, to some of his friends, in a burial ritual, and he was talking to me about, he's not allowed to cry, and we kind of gave him permission to do that. And then he just started kind of sobbing away at the death of his friends. And it was quite moving, actually. It was quite sad. Yeah, so there's some really interesting little mysteries as you go around. There's little collectible artifacts like the kind of Roman masks and things. There's little wealth points and things which you can find. There's weapons and armour which you can find, but there's not a crazy amount of them. There's certainly these large areas of just beautiful kind of English countryside, and I really appreciate that. I like to know I've gone on a journey when I'm going somewhere. I don't want to, I don't mind not having a huge map, and Valhalla is smaller than Odyssey, but it feels to me so much bigger because there's so many more wide open spaces without an encampment here or something going on there or whatever. It feels like that, and I think there's still going to be a good 100+ hours out of this game. I'm pretty sure of that. No one's trying to shortchange you here for your money, but I have really enjoyed it. As for the main quest, as I said, I won't do any spoilers, but I like it so far. I don't think it's any spoiler to say you start off in Norway and then you head to England for various reasons. The Norway bit is stunning, but I definitely prefer the English part to Norway. The snow is nice, but do a whole game in the snow, put it that way. I also obviously am personally biased with English things as I live in England, and where I live is represented in this game, so I really like that. I haven't been there yet because I'm not high enough level, but I really look forward to it. But obviously other places I have been or have worked sometimes while are in this game, so that's cool. Now obviously they're very, very, very different to how they are now, but it's kind of nice to have that kind of, I don't know, almost familiar kind of thing going on here. What's down here? Oh, it's a river. Okay, and then some fields. So yeah, the main quest, as I was gonna say, with no spoilers, I've enjoyed it so far. It hasn't at the minute thrown me too many curveballs. I believe there's definitely going to be some to come along. I don't really know what, but they've kind of hinted at a couple of things so far, and that's kind of interesting to see how it kind of ends up, because it's definitely at a point now where I'm like, everything's going too well at the minute, and something bad's going to happen. It always does in these stories, so I am, there's a camp there, we'll avoid that and kind of wander through this forest. So, but I'm enjoying it so far. We've met some really interesting characters so far, and Ivor himself, I think, is quite an interesting character in himself. He he's got that little bit of sly humour. Does remind me a lot of The Witcher 3, this game. I will say that straight off the bat. Not only the way it looks, but sometimes the way it plays and feels, and the way with your character, who isn't I don't think it's a spoiler to say, he's not the leader, he's not the man, he's not the king, he's not the queen, he's not the, he's that kind of person who goes around doing a bit of the dirty work every now and then, and I feel like Geralt is a bit like that, where he's the one who has to come in and clean up the situations that, the kings and queens and princes and whatever have kind of created, and that's definitely what Ivor is kind of doing there. So it doesn't feel like they've really taken, this is kind of very much feels like the Assassin's Creed Witcher like crossover. Ubisoft, I would imagine, looked at the success of Witcher 3 and went, no one else has really done a game that, with that kind of feel. Now obviously there's not the, obviously it's not the same as The Witcher 3, you don't have the magic, the spells, the the creatures, etc, in the game that you do in The Witcher 3, but it is, I'm going to avoid these warriors here. I don't want to have to kill them. But there are some, without spoiling things, there are some kind of mythical things and that kind of stuff going on here, the kind of legend stuff, and the kind of Nordic mythology stuff going on as well. So yeah, but so far enjoyed the story. As I said, I don't know how it's going to end, I don't know where it's going to go. At the minute it's followed a fairly predictable path that I've been like, okay, yep, I can see this, with a couple of little things thrown in here and there, but I am very interested to know kind of where it goes from here. I'm also interested to know where I'm going from here. I think we follow this round a little bit more. Of course, the one big kind of difference between this and other Assassin's Creed games, apart from perhaps 2 where you have your villa, is the village, which is where we're heading towards Ravensthorpe. So you kind of build up your village. It's got a really nice mechanic, because instead of just accumulating wealth to buy yourself stuff, you accumulate stuff to build stuff in your village. People will have tents and things, but if you want them to be able to use things like your tattoo shop or your cartographer or your merchant or whatever, you have to actually build those shops, and they cost materials and supplies. Supplies are found around the world in chests and things, you can just find them as you explore. But the building materials, the only way you can get those is by going on raids, raiding monasteries in particular, which is really cool. It's a nice mechanic, and it hasn't got boring for me yet, because there's not a huge number of them, and they kind of unlock as you unlock new areas. So you might do like 2 in an area, and then you unlock a new area, and there's another couple there. So there's not like a huge number of them, and they feel pretty fun to do. They do feel like you're actually kind of raiding the place, and once you get the stuff, you know, it's like, get out of here, and your guys are like setting places on fire. And it's kind of cool. They've all been very, very similar in what you do. You know, there's no kind of fancy mechanics here. It's not like a Grand Theft Auto heist or something, but there is a definite kind of like, feels a little bit different to some other things that you do when you go on a raid. Calling up your longboat is pretty cool, and you know, just you and your guys jumping up and taking down a. Let's go get this boat. Actually, I think it might be quite nice to punt down the river a little bit as well. It's really nice to kind of build it up and the way it goes, and it gives you something to get these supplies for. You're like, oh, I need these supplies to, you know, get this place or whatever, and kind of level up your village, as it were. Build things for people, and you get little side quests from doing that, with little interesting ones as well. There's an interesting one with some kids. We got a wolf, and there's just really interesting little things going on where you're like, oh, that's really cool. You know, that's cool. I like it. The combat as well is definitely for me the best out of the series so far. In terms of fun, in terms of variety, so every weapon feels different, has its, you know, pluses and negatives, has its own, you know, move sets, its own finishers, etc., etc. Here there's Ravensthorpe as we will go past it. Looking pretty cool, I think. Looking pretty cool. There's my longboat. If you're wondering actually where I got these designs from, and my armour that you can see here on Ivor, and it does look pretty cool, my longboat, I will say that much. It's with Amazon. If you're an Amazon Prime member and you link your account to your Ubisoft account, you unlock them for free, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, that's Ravensthorpe, your little village. What was I saying? The combat is really cool. The bow feels way better than it has in other Assassin's Creed. I think it feels nice. I don't know why. Headshots do seem to kill the vast majority of time with the normal soldiers, which is, you know, quite nice, but your arrows are a lot more limited, so you can't just go around spamming headshots on everyone. Although you can upgrade your quiver, but it's, once you start to get to a certain point, you need quite a lot of resources to do that. Weapons and armour are a lot scarcer than in other games. Certainly Odyssey, you're always picking up new weapons, and I quite like that. So after 33 hours and exploring quite a lot in the game, you know, I have this many weapons. It's not a lot, but they all feel quite different with the way they work. And we'll talk about the perk system later, but you can even dual wield like 2 heavy weapons if you want, and it does change the way your combat feels and stuff like that. So I really like that about the game. The combat is so varied and interesting, and really stylistic as well, which is so cool. Like, there's finishing moves, that's just so awesome. The abilities that you get are really cool because you now get them through books of knowledge, so you discover the abilities rather than just unlocking them. You do unlock some, but they're more kind of passive things you do. But the majority of really cool, like melee or ranged abilities you do, the really cool looking ones are unlocked through finding books of knowledge around the place, which is again really cool because you can just go off and find them if you want. And usually there's a small puzzle to how you do it, so it might be trying to find where the key is to unlock a door, or trying to find out where a secret tunnel is to get there, or something like that, you know. And it's really good fun, sort of doing that. It's never usually too difficult to kind of work it out. It might be in a town where, you know, you'll be attacked on sight and you've got to try and sneak your way around and into things and find out, or you could just battle your way through them all if you really wanted to. So I like that. The actual perk system, if we can have a look at this skill system, feels very Path of Exile, with it giving you these little buffs, all these little things, and then these abilities, you know, which you get. You can reset all your skills at any point if you want to go on a different route around. You can, or you can try something out, and if you didn't like it, then you could be like, I don't want to waste my points on that, and use them. And your skill points are basically what ties you to your suggested power levels. So the world is broken up into different districts which have power levels, and you know, based upon how many skill points you've unlocked is, you know, your suggested power. Now that is suggested, it is possible to go to the higher areas. Nothing's locked off for you, and you can kill people in them. It'll just be a lot harder fight there. And that kind of moves on nicely, I think, to talking about the fact that you don't have those annoying, like, XP boosters, microtransactions that you had in Odyssey. You can get those skill points not just for completing missions, but for doing the little mysteries, for exploring, for combat. You know, everything you do gets you XP, or doing little missions grants you the skill points as an extra thing. So it's kind of cool, really. We're just going past Grant Bridge, or Cambridge as it is known. It is such a stunning game, I think, personally. The world design is incredible. Yeah, so that's your kind of your skill tree, as I said, and then you have your abilities which you can switch out at any point on there. Which some of them are such good fun. You know, ones like the dive, or you know, your rage mode where you knock people down and then kind of batter them, or when you rush and bash someone into a wall. It's really good fun. It feels so good to kind of do that. It's a lot of fun. I can do it all day long. And as you start to kind of chain things up and work the way out, and I just think the combat becomes really good fun. And when you mix that in with much better assassination gameplay, so they've brought back things like blending in with groups of people, or, you know, doing tasks and blending in, to the kind of double assassinations. Also, you can, once you unlock a certain skill of advanced assassination, you can assassinate pretty much anyone in the game, like even really high level characters. It's a simple little kind of quick time thing you have to get right, but it means you can assassinate like high level people who you would normally be able to assassinate. Like Odyssey or Origins, you would have to fight them, but it means you can really focus on the assassination side of things and being an assassin if you want to, rather than you know, being a Viking as you are. But I think the game does encourage, you know, both ways. Like, for example, if you want to do a raid, you don't have to call in your longbow and attack. You can sneak around and take people out and get the treasure, and then call in your reinforcements. If you want to, you can be in the middle of town and call in the raid boat. So they do give you like certain things which you can do differently, which I do appreciate. I think it's their best game in a long time, actually. Ubisoft's best game in a long time. And weirdly just feels so different to Watch Dogs, even though they came out very similar times. A similar kind of gameplay, if you like. Open world, but very different open worlds. One's much smaller, focused on, you know, hustle bustle of a city. One's a kind of big open countryside. It's interesting, I think. Yeah, so that's kind of, I guess, that's my assessment of Assassin's Creed Valhalla at the minute. Really enjoyed it so far. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to go through. There is, one more thing which I really like is the bosses. So you have these kind of bosses or world bosses or quest bosses or whatever, and they're these kind of like, usually these kind of one-on-one fights. Sometimes it's creatures, sometimes it's people, but it's really tough. Now I do have the difficulty set to hard because I needed a bit more of a challenge, but I really wanted I really like the kind of world bosses, the way it goes. You know, they have big stamina bars, they have multi phases, and they'll switch out to a different weapon set if you get them health down a certain style. It's not Dark Souls, but it does feel a little bit like they've kind of tried to take that inspiration a little bit, and I really like it. They are quite challenging. Even if you take people on and you're a little bit higher level than them, it's still a real challenge, and again, that's pretty nice. It's good to have that sort of challenge. So I really like that side of it as well. It just, I feel like the game just has so much going for it. There's so much interesting stuff going on, but it doesn't feel overwhelmed, you know. I get my exploration itch by kind of going to different places and wandering around and stuff. The combat feels really meaty. There's fun assassination stealth bits. The story is gripping me at the minute. I like the kind of customization and stuff you can do. The only downside, I'd say, to customization is it'd be nice if you could change the colour of some outfits, but that would be my only thing, I would say. That would be nice. So for example, if I wanted to have like a blue cloak instead of a red one, if I could just dye it or something, that would be cool. But it's, you know, it's a very minor gripe, I'd say. The game runs very well. I'd say I'm getting about an extra 6 or 7 frames per second, but it is stably sticking over 60 frames per second for me, and there is a wide variety of graphic options on the PC version that are, you know, kind of available. I can kind of show you here. So yeah, I have kind of ultra world details, high on most things, and it's a 1440p. I'd limit myself to 60, although actually let's see where. Let's take that off, and let's see how high we're gonna get. Not much higher. I generally kind of limit myself to 60 because I'm like, I just find it gives a more stable experience. Plus, when I'm recording, you guys can only see in 60 frames per second at the minute on YouTube, so there's no point going higher. But as you can see, I'm not really going much higher than 60 anyway. I'd rather it didn't jump out quite so much. But yeah, it runs quite nicely. I don't know how it is on console or anything like that. And my PC specs are a Ryzen 7 3700X with a RTX 2080 Super, so they're not low specs. They're not the high specs at the minute, obviously, but they're definitely not low specs. No ray tracing in this game, which is interesting because Watch Dogs does have it, but on hindsight, thinking about the fact that there's not a huge amount of reflective surfaces other than water, but there's not a lot of glass and metal, obviously, then it does kind of make sense, I think, for them perhaps not to have ray tracing, but that certainly helps the performance, I would say. There is in Watch Dogs, and it looks fantastic, but it can have performance issues in Watch Dogs, so, and it's a very different game as well. But really enjoy it, and obviously the lighting in the game is absolutely on point, I think. The photo mode I've really enjoyed taking pictures in as well. It's been great. So overall, I'm just very enamoured with this game. I really like it a lot, and it's come about a time when I've needed a game which has or which can occupy quite a large amount of time for me. I just damaged my boat up, so it's kind of perfect. But I would say if you are looking for that kind of like long experience, and you know you like a kind of open world game, but maybe you've been put off reason, I definitely think this game is worth a good look. But yeah, we're gonna kind of finish up here now, I think. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this whisper video. If you want, I can do more kind of like wonder videos and just talking about stuff. But yeah, let me know. Until next time though guys, thank you for watching as always. It's been my pleasure. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.